Welcome to Buckets, your daily NBA betting podcast, live from the Tommy John Home Studios. When you're truly comfortable, you do everything better, and that includes betting. So let's turn this underwear into some winning wagers, gentlemen. We've got plays for the Wednesday card coming up, an 11-game NBA slate. I am your host, Brandon Kravitz, at Brandon Kravitz on Twitter, if you want to follow along with my daily musings. And with me today, Michael Fiddle, as well as AC, the AnalyticsCapper, Albert Nguyen, at Fiddle's Picks and at AnalyticsCapper is how you can find them in their variety of different outlets. The NBA has been wacky and goofy as of late. I never know what I'm going to get from the league night to night with all these injuries, players resting, teams tanking. It is rough out here on these streets. A reminder that everything we talk about today can be found in the award-winning Action Network app, as well as quick slips for our picks today in the episode description. Michael Fiddle, welcome back to the show. I think we're at least close to it. We're probably like a week away from this being the official Tuesday night, Wednesday card crew. It's feeling like it, you know? AC's all dressed up for the occasion. Fiddle, what are we looking at on the Wednesday slate?
I got a few of them that I actually really like on this card. I'll stick with the best of them right now. It's the over in Mavericks Pacers. 233.5 is the number.
AC, what do you got?
Yeah, you mentioned that the NBA has been a little weird, so I've kept volume down, to be honest. I'm only going to be on one play. I like the Orlando Magic at home, plus 2.5 against the Rockets.
I am with you on that. I will be in the arena for that one. And, I don't just take the Magic blindly. I try and pick my spots throughout the season. They were red hot to start the year against the spread, especially at home. That cooled off, but it does seem like things are starting to pick up for the Orlando Magic. I'm curious how our caps on this game align with one another, but I'm with you on that. And David, our producer, go ahead and throw it in. I'm leaning into the New York Knicks -8 against the San Antonio Spurs. I don't know how San Antonio is going to be able to keep pace with this New York Knicks team. The Knicks didn't cover the last time these two teams played. That was on Christmas Day, and Victor Wembanyama went crazy. Wemby is not part of the equation anymore. De'Aaron Fox is not part of the equation anymore. And the Knicks, this is what they do. They are bullies. They beat up on bad teams. So it really isn't more complicated than that. If the Knicks are able to play their game, the Spurs will not be able to run with them. AC, give me your cap on Magic plus 2.5. I'm curious to see where we line up on this.
Yeah, Brandon, ultimately, this is a line read for me, right? If you're just looking at the screens, Houston Rockets are superior when you look at the record, when you look at advanced analytics, when you look at dunks and threes, and you account for pace. They're 44-25 for the season. The Magic are 12 games behind them, right? If you're looking at the standings, they're only underdogs by 2.5 points. That's a really big tell for me. They also played, 2 weeks ago, I believe, like 10 days ago, and the Rockets covered. I think they were favored by 3.5, depending on what you were looking at. And they ended up winning by double digits. So I think this is a head-to-head series where I think the home team is going to take care of business at home. Again, this is a line read for me. Plus 2.5 is basically I'm probably going to take money line as well. But yeah, you're right. From the Orlando Magic, when you're looking at how they're playing as a team, when you look at their form, out of the All-Star break, they were terrible. They shit the bed, to be honest. They lost games that they shouldn't have lost. I think they were favored against the Raptors back-to-back games. They lost both, but they have been playing a lot better. I will be a little cautious when you're looking at the schedule. They're coming off 5 straight games on the road. They just play one game in Orlando, and they got to go back on the road, I think, up to the Northeast to play the Wizards after this. So it is a weird scheduling quirk, but I do like Orlando. We know they're going to play tough defense. The total is at 209.5 for a reason. It's low. I think the defense is going to keep them in it. And again, if I'm going to be on the spread here at such a short number, I'm most likely going to be on the money line as well.
Fiddle, before I get into and I have some numbers that'll back up that home, the return home from a long road trip that I think will tickle your fancy. But Fiddle, when you look at the money line versus the spread, the Magic are plus plus 2.5, sitting at anywhere between minus 105 and minus 110, where depending on where you look, plus 120, plus 115 on the money line. It doesn't seem like you're getting enough value just taking them as the winner. I feel like taking the points in this situation is you're kind of just leaving points on the table and not getting enough juice for the squeeze if you end up going the money line route. Your thoughts on that?
I generally actually always take the money line if I'm playing a spread less than 5. If you look at the values of the numbers, Brandon, like the number 1 on and off moving half a point in any direction is worth 6 cents. So if you're factoring in, okay, what if it moves here? What if it moves here? And you calculate and you add up what these moves are worth, you generally get roughly right at this number. So money lines are always kind of fairly priced in ranges of the spreads. There's times when you can find examples where money lines are slightly better. They do slightly less hold in the market. So if you're looking at like line shopping, you could probably do well in mitigating hold for the sports book in finding a good price on a money line. It's easier to work off of if you're live betting, if you're coming the other direction later in the game for any direction. Like if the Magic end up going up a big time at halftime and you want to come back on Rockets, it's easier to do that with a money line than laying points. Well, obviously, if you have the plus 2.5 on the underdog side, it becomes a little easier, but you get that with, good odds that can mitigate the vig that you pay on the other side working live. So I do play the money lines whenever it's less than like 4.5 or 5. That's definitely a playoff trick. I think they've studied the playoff numbers, and it's like north of 85% of the time in the last 3 or 4 years where if the dog covers a low spread, they're actually just winning outright. So it is worth it to take the little boost there on the escalator. And generally, it's not like a one size fits all. It's kind of both. And I think Albert was speaking to that. He's going to take a little bit of both. So like I would split up my exposure maybe like 65-35 and still predominantly play the spread, but then also tack on money line as well.
Do you have a particular formula AC in the way that you split up those units when it comes to tight numbers like this?
I don't, to be honest. Like Fiddle is more of a mathematical guy when it comes to that. I just think from a value standpoint, because I like the dog for a reason, and I'm not just looking at the dog as covering the spread, to be honest. And that's across all sports. Like if I like, a football team getting 8 points, I'm going to sprinkle a little bit on the money line as well. So no exact formula there. Another thing I wanted to point out, Brandon, before we get into your numbers is this is a great sell spot for Houston, right? Houston's been on fire. I think they've won 5, 6, or 7 games in a row. They've covered 5 of those games. They're playing great team basketball, but they're also closing really well. So you can't continue to, play with fire in the fourth quarter and then close. Maybe they can continue to do it, but I think the value here is on a home team with Orlando.
And you nailed it. And that, to me, is the biggest part of this whole read in this game isn't even really about the Magic. It's about fading the Houston Rockets. They've won 7 games in a row. You said they've covered 5 of them. The last 2 are the ones they haven't covered. And they took overtime to beat the Philadelphia 76ers. They beat the Bulls by 3. The wheels are starting to fall off. You can sense when these winning streaks are about to come to an end, and it feels like this is the perfect spot for it. It's a nice little revenge spot. The Magic dropped one to the Houston Rockets in an absolute rock fight just a couple of weeks ago. The Magic come back home after the win of the year, so there would be some thought that maybe you want to fade a team after that, but I can tell you, just being close to the situation, the vibes have been off with this team. It has felt like over the last year, chemistry and energy is what got this team by, and both of those things fell off. That has completely restored itself, and all is good in the town that Mickey built. The Magic have also been on a little bit of a heater when it comes to the number. They've covered 3 straight. 2 against 2 of the hottest teams in the league. One of them was against the Minnesota Timberwolves. Didn't win that game, but they did cover the number and then beat the Cavs outright. Houston, meanwhile, struggling against those 2 teams, the Sixers and the Bulls. That worries me a little bit, and I'm thinking maybe they ran out of gas. They hit the road for the first time in 12 days, so you never know how that's going to impact the team. Also, for the Magic, when they come back home, this is the one that I wanted to spit out to you, Albert. when they come back home from road trips that have spanned 3 games or more throughout the course of this season, they are 4-0 straight up. So that is a great reason to look the way of the Orlando Magic plus 2.5. What else do you have, Fiddle?
I just wanted to speak to like choosing how you ratio out money line versus spread. Look up money line conversion charts for the NBA for all the listeners. You can literally see what these ranges should be relative to the number. And then it's a sliding scale between 0 and 100% in either direction. So it's like if the spread is just black and white, the right bet, then it's 100% spread. And there's times when money line is outwardly the right bet and it's 100% money line. But generally it's 50-50 or like 60-40, 65-35 with taking the points, because there's a reason why you're getting the points. So take those. You avoid the bad beats. You avoid the post results gut checks when you look back and you're like, oh, I like recently I had Bucks money line when Halliburton made that 4-point play. And the closing line was...
We recorded with each other right after that.
Closing line was plus 1.5. So, like, there's a reason why it's still sitting with me a week later as, like, the worst decision that I could make. And despite other things being, green this week, it's like that one sits with me because those are the worst types of gut checks is taking the money line and the spread would have covered.
Well, and that's what pains me about the idea of taking a money line in this situation when you have two teams that conceivably are as close in terms of overall form as these two teams are. If I'm getting 2.5, if I like the dog, I want the points. I want the insurance. I understand the value of a little bit extra payout over time with the money line. I feel like if I am able to add a point or two to anything I am betting over time, whether that's a prop or a point spread, I always want that on my side, because then my overall win column is going to be bigger than my loss column. And at the end of the day, that's what we're trying to do.
I think it's a really interesting discussion, and we could talk about it, more in a later episode. But the mindset that I have with it, like outside of the mathematical part of it and the formula part of it, is it's similar to someone that plays blackjack, right? Let's say you win your first hand, and a lot of people are going to press that first bet because you're literally playing with the winnings. You're playing with the house money that you didn't have. That's how I view these short dogs, is you're basically getting the opportunity. Again, you could always bet more on the spread, right? But I like to spread my action around anyway. So for me, it's like if I'm really, really confident that Orlando is the right read tomorrow night, it's almost like I'm playing two hands there, and playing with house money. That's my mindset. Again, everybody has different mindsets. It depends on how good you are betting underdogs. I think that's the key.
Absolutely. And how well you can stomach the kind of beat that Fiddle took with that Pacers Bucks game. I'm not one of those. I don't want that. I don't want to have to sleep. I've convinced myself to fall asleep after a bad beat like that. I'll take the win, slightly less payout, and live to fight another day. Fiddle, was there anything else on your card before we wrap this one up?
Yeah, do you want me to go over Mavs Pacers real quick?
Yes, please.
I really like the over in this spot. I do think that they're going to return. The Pacers specifically are going to return a bunch of guys. They missed Pascal Siakam. They missed Halliburton. They missed Turner. They missed Nesmith. And then Nembhard gets ejected last game. So really the whole crew was on the shelf. I think they get a lot of those players back, and simply just repricing them back in pops this number north of 235. The Mavericks have no interior defense right now. They're hunting threes themselves, and kind of Jason Kidd matches his opponent with game theory optimal basketball, and the Pacers are going to look to push, and the Mavericks are going to respond also by pushing and hunting threes and hoping they hit at a higher clip. So really like the over, would play it to north of 235 and a half. That's 2 points higher than it is currently. So this is one that I kind of want to sink my teeth into at the current numbers. And then looking around, I do like the Suns to cover. 7 and 7.5s are starting to show up. If you get a 7, that would be okay with me. And then one funny point before we go, guys. OKC and Philadelphia is a 9-point spread as nobody's playing. And the 76ers want to lose. And OKC might also not really be too incentivized to win because they get Philadelphia's pick if Philadelphia doesn't finish top 6 or whatever. And so it's kind of like loser leaves town with the bag in this one. But you look at all the guys that are missing, and it's a 9-point spread. But if you price them all back in and you modeled the game out with all the guys playing, it would still be a 9-point spread. So I just think it's really funny in a gambling world where we're all just focused ATS and whatever, and we're going to hear so much noise about how terrible that game is and how it could have been a marquee matchup. It's the exact same spread that would have been regardless of if we had Embiid, Maxey, George, SGA, J-Dub, Dort.
So are we just
you're gonna enjoy it just like you would have enjoyed it with those superstars. One thing I would say that's interesting, OKC does have a little incentive to win, not because of the pick and all that, but because of the number 1 overall seed, right? If they were to play Cleveland in the finals, I think they would rather have home court as opposed to
I agree. It was actually even tough to come out of my mouth because I don't think OKC would ever intentionally lose a game in a title-winning season.
Just too good.
That's just not what you do. There's no way they're letting that message ripple through for a potential draft pick from somebody else's team. It's a nonsense, non-starter argument in its reality.
Too much quality depth, and then the coaching is too good. Yeah, there's just no
exactly.
way.
We're just betting Quentin Grimes props at this point anyway. So don't worry about the rest of that stuff.
Grimes versus the Mavericks' entire starting lineup. I mean, you just do Grimes every time.
I mean, I guess we're just saying that the Oklahoma City Thunder, their home court advantage is somewhere around 9 points, with so much uncertainty between those two teams. So let's review where we are at. To recap, Michael Fiddle likes the over in the Pacers and Mavericks at 233.5. You'll also be on the Suns. This number's already moving mid-conversation. Suns -6.5, -7. Where did you end up landing on that?
I got a 6.5. I'd be comfortable with a 7 if it's still available when this releases. I would not play a 7.5.
AC and I like the Magic +2.5. He'll sprinkle a little on the money line. I'll sit tight with my 2.5, and I'll also be on the New York Knicks -8 against the San Antonio Spurs. Shout out to our producer hopping on a little early with us, David Payne. That's a wrap for our Wednesday episode and the Wednesday crew. Thanks for tuning in. Let's get buckets.